From WHYY, it is Hittin season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Fight. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. Coming up, the Phillies make a major addition. I mean, it's hard to believe they were able to get their hands on this guy. That's right. Old friend David Robertson back with the Phillies for a third go-around. Not just yet, though. He's going to spend some time in AAA to get ramped up. But we're going to talk about the David Robertson signing. We're going to talk about the first game of the Phillies Red Sox series. They are wrapping it up, or at least we think they're wrapping it up as we are speaking right now. It is the bottom of the 10th inning with the score tied 2-2. So we'll have some live action to talk about here in just a couple of minutes. We'll also talk a little bit about the Angels series, the first series coming back from the All-Star break. And we'll do a little trade deadline draft on this episode of the podcast. We're just going to draft the players that we like best, that we think are going to be available here at the trade deadline. All that coming up on this edition of Hittin Season. Justin Klugh joining me for the roundtable. Liz Rocher out tonight, enjoying the ball game, I believe, with her husband. So it's Justin and I schlepping away here on the podcast. Follow him on Blue Sky at Justin Klugh. Of course, he writes for Baseball Prospectus. Justin, how you feeling, pal?
Rough umpiring period, I feel. From the Phil Cuzzy game to tonight with Quinn Walcott, just some frustrating, let's say, decisions, calls, conclusions being drawn, and then just the constant the confidence with which they respond. I mean, just watching Walcott go off with JT Realmuto tonight when they're fighting over whether or not he'd made contact with a foul ball. It's just like you allow a certain amount of leeway, let's say, for, umpires to get something wrong. And it just felt like tonight was another one of those nights where I'm just watching watching the pitch hit the corner and it's not a ball. And then it comes inside on a Phillies hitter and it's a strike. And, I'm not at the point where I'm laying out some sort of grand conspiracy against the Phillies, but I don't think we can take it off the table at this point.
They do hate us. Everybody knows that.
I think they're just trying to annoy me personally. This actually isn't about the Phillies at all.
Right. In the back of their mind, they're thinking about Justin Klugh from the Hittin Season podcast.
I can't wait to get that guy.
Yeah. He's still out there? Okay, we'll show him.
He thought Phil Cuzzy was bad. Check this out.
Yeah, that's right. That's the old hold my beer. Well, let's get into the David Robertson signing real quick here, Justin, before we talk about game action on the field. And, of course, as I mentioned, this is his third time with the team. It's the first time, I believe, someone has signed a free agent contract with the Phillies been with the Phillies 3 separate occasions. He was traded once and signed 2 free agent deals with the Phillies now, because the first 2 go-arounds with David Robertson were so amazing. You absolutely wanted to get a third crack at David Robertson here. He's going to get $6 million for the rest of the season. He'll start in AAA, as I mentioned, to kind of get ramped up because he has not pitched at all this season. He had a very good year for Texas last year. A 3.00 ERA, a full season, 72 innings, 99 strikeouts in 72 innings with only 27 walks. He's 40 years old now, but the numbers last year were quite good. He was representing himself. He did not have an agent this offseason and was looking for a certain kind of deal and never got it. So he's just been kind of sitting on the vine, working out, and had a couple of workouts for teams in the last couple of weeks. The Phillies obviously saw him, know him as an old friend, and signed him to this contract. So, Justin, once David Robertson is up in the major leagues, how do you see him fitting into this bullpen?
Well, I mean, I think as intended, as far as like his general output, I think I, like anybody else, was my instinct was not the best, let's say, to see this deal go down. But that was just off the cuff, thinking more about it and evaluating it a little more. I'm not saying no, this is great, but it is the move the Phillies should make as long as they don't make any other moves. I think we can all agree. This should probably just be it.
What?
Yeah.
What? You don't mean that, Justin.
Of course not. The thing that makes it more acceptable is like, all right, well, clearly this is not them addressing, the entire bullpen issue. They have a 4.30 bullpen ERA in the bottom 10, well in the bottom 10 of Major League Baseball while they're attempting to contend for a division title. Obviously, you need a little more than 40-year-old David Robertson. I don't know why I think it's so funny when guys sign without agents. Just like, yeah, we found a guy. He's just like, he was wandering around outside, and we thought, yeah, sure, why not? And he was totally familiar to us too. And I like how he feels Philadelphia. He feels very like familiar there and everything. And I think I have no complaints about Robertson as a person when he's been here. He's been game for anything, really laid back guy. But at the most, as far as like being a pitcher goes, they need guys who can come into games in serious, often tight, low scoring situations, unfortunately, and really like take care of business. They kind of need an authoritative presence to come in from the bullpen. Can David Robertson be that every time? No. Can he be that some of the time? Yeah, probably. Once he's down in AAA working things out and gets back, fully on track, I think he can be part of a revamped bullpen, but part of a committee, not as closer, but just as like a general group of guys who are able to get more outs. And I think that's generally what this bullpen needs, is just to kind of like get refreshed. There's a lot of arms in here that are dead weight. There's already been a bunch of guys who have been DFA'd or however departed the team because they just weren't getting the job done. And we're kind of just at that part of the season where it's like, if you can't get 3 outs when the Phillies need 3 outs, or even 2 outs, or however Rob Thompson's trying to use you, then there's just not going to be a place for you here. And I think you got to start bringing in arms you trust and arms you like. And for the Phillies, that's David Robertson. He's not going to, we all have images of his past times here before in our heads, but he's not going to save your season on his own. But that's the whole point. He's not going to have to.
Right. I mean, you're right. That's not what he's being brought here to do. Do I think this is going to, really, it's such an unknown, because if he pitches like he did last year, he will absolutely help this bullpen, but he hasn't pitched at all this year. He's 40 years old. I think pinning your hopes, they're paying him $6 million. This is not like a cheapy contract either. If this was prorated over a full season, it's like a $12 million contract, 10 with like the luxury tax penalty that they have to pay. So, they believe that he's going to be an answer in high leverage situations. I'm skeptical. I'm very skeptical that David Robertson is going to be that guy, because he was that guy for part of that 22 run and ran out of gas. You don't think he's going to run out of gas this time because he's only starting in the middle of the season. But that being said, he hasn't pitched at all this year. We'll see what he looks like in AAA, but this should not deter Dave Dombrowski from doing whatever he had planned at the trade deadline. Like this should not talk him that, but I think it's going to. I think it's going to, I don't think they're going to go after 2 arms now. I think it's going to be 1 arm, because $6 million, that to me signals like this is one of the 2 arms we're going to get.
I don't want this to sound stronger than I mean it, but it becomes difficult to believe a team takes itself seriously when it is constantly looking for an ability for the opportunity to be cute instead of direct with solutions, where you're looking to cut a corner and sign a guy who's 40 and hasn't pitched all year because, this kind of just like makes sense and we like what we saw. I said the beginning of this year, as the Phillies were making the kind of deals they were making, that I like that they're trusting themselves and their evaluation. I want them to be able to. But unfortunately, a lot of those deals just kind of didn't work. And I'm kind of tired of watching guys come in from the bullpen who don't make me feel comfortable watching the game. And Robertson, until proven otherwise, is going to be one of those guys, unfortunately. Yeah. So, for this to be some sort of deterrent for the Phillies to sign, potentially better arms for more money, that's kind of a bummer, And this team with the bullpen in the shape that it's in, it's like, are we taking this seriously or not? Like, come on.
Maybe I'm wrong. And they're still going to go out and get 2 guys, but if this had been like a $2 million contract, I'd feel better about the chances they're going to trade for 2 more guys. But I think what they did here is they saw, we need 2 guys. We can just get this guy without giving up any prospects. Like, we can just go pay this guy to come on board. And now we only need to trade for 1, which means...
And they're also thinking about having Alvarado back on August 18th. I'm sure they're factoring that into their little plan.
Yeah.
Sorry, now I'm mad at the Phillies. Way to go, John. You talked me into it. Now I'm mad at him.
Maybe it'll be smart, and David Robertson will come up and he'll pitch great. I just, if
it's David Robertson and then like Pete Fairbanks, which I don't think, but I'm just throwing a name out there, and then they sit and then Dave Dombrowski's like, yeah, we're comfortable with our bullpen the way it is now. I'm not gonna share that comfort level. I'm just not, and that's gonna be I hate what else I feel like that says about their overall approach to this. Like, are we doing this or not? Because leading up to this, everything we've heard is just, oh yeah, the Phillies, they're not saying they're definitely going to make some sort of giant move, but they're open to more seismic moves, and they want to keep. They don't want rentals. They want guys they can keep around.
Controllable guys, yeah.
Yeah, so that's been a priority for them, which to me felt like, okay, this is a team that wants to win now and plan for the future simultaneously. That's fine. That means the opposite of, hey, we're going to pay a lot for a guy who's going to leave here in 2 months, or we're going to, work on the margins and kind of like snip these bargains off the edges of what's available. I don't know. I feel like I was preparing myself for a more direct approach. And I know we're not, and even close to done with this. There's still plenty of time between now and the trade deadline, and the Phillies are going to make more moves. But, as a table setter, it was not a great feeling initially.
Yeah.
It could be helpful, but I really hope this doesn't take away from a more aggressive move down the road.
As long as it works out as well as signing Max Kepler on a bounce back idea and Jordan Romano on a bounce back and Joe Ross. I mean, as long as it works out as well as those bounce back candidates.
That's the thing, man. Like, you want to make deals like that and ride that, like, put them front and center and have those be the kind of deals you want to make. I don't know what to tell you. Your recent track record's not great in that regard. So if you want to play that game, okay, but you're gonna have people are not going to trust this. However, I'm still talking about this as though it's like They had a press conference afterwards and said the Phillies are done, no more deals, including on offense. David Robertson is it. He is the answer. Yeah. We hoist that trophy with D-Rob. That's done. But that's not what happened. It's not what happened, and he simply could be part of a larger solution.
I'm hardwired for cynicism at this point, which is not the best place to be.
Well, you talked me into it, clearly.
I just used logic, and that's the worst thing. No one should ever use logic for anything. It'll only get you in trouble.
I hate when you do that. I've talked to you about that before.
I'm the worst. I'm incorrigible when it comes to that. All right, let's talk about a little ball on the field here. As we were talking about David Robertson just now, Justin, I mean, the Phillies with a walk-off win in dramatic fashion loaded the bases with nobody out against Jordan Hicks. Edmundo Sosa at the plate. Bat tips the catcher's mitt as he's check swinging on a 2-strike pitch. The umpire initially doesn't call catcher's interference. Rob Thompson challenges the non-call. It is overturned. They did see clearly the bat hits the catcher's glove. So again, another outstanding job by the umpire here, where the bat, you can see the glove move visibly. It's not even close. The winning run scores on the manager's challenge catcher interference, and that is how the first game of the series against the Red Sox goes in the books. I will say Bryce Harper and Zach Wheeler both had very good games in this one, really the only two, and the bullpen did an excellent job in this one as well. Max Luzardo gets his first major league win, working out of that scoreless 10th inning with the runner on second to start the inning. Didn't give anything up. So good night at the ball yard. I mean, the Phillies win a game. They are now back at 500 since the start of June, Justin.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the Phillies have been playing with a ton of great momentum lately, dropping 2 series before the All-Star break, coming out, losing a series to the Angels, and seeing stuff like Suarez not having his best stuff in his start, where you were hoping they could pick up a series win coming into the second half. And, you said Zach Wheeler looking great. Pitch count was pretty high tonight. Wasn't getting all the calls he needed. Obviously gave up that home run in the first inning, and I think people were getting nervous. But it takes obviously more than one start, especially from a pitcher like Zach Wheeler, to really start that narrative. And I don't think we're anywhere near that. Despite Phillies broadcast pointing out, he's given up a home run in each of his last 3 starts. But regardless, I guess it's just more of that shaking that foundation of starting pitching. If the Phillies starting pitching isn't working, I'm not saying it's not, but I'm just saying if we enter a situation where it's not working, then the Phillies aren't working, because this is a team that runs on its starting pitching. And the last thing you want to see is cracks in foundations of what has gotten the Phillies to this point. That being said, I'm not fearful particularly of that right now. I just would like to see this team start winning series again. I think that would be good for them and good for everybody else's mental health. And this win is, I'm going to take it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and complain about the win. Right. But I think we can all agree that there's a different kind of thing achieved by a walk-off catcher's interference call and like a walk-off double in the corner. Like people have to, you get that moment of like, the ball's laced down the line. Everybody's waiting to see if it's fair, and then it's fair, and then the place goes nuts because, at that point they've already won the game. In this case, everybody's kind of got to like look around, see like, oh, what's happening? Like, and then there's the challenge, and so everyone's like looking at their phones for a while before the cheering starts.
During the manager's challenge, you could see people kind of half getting up from their seats. Like there's a couple women like getting their purses on their shoulders, but then just kind of waiting around for the announcement that the game was going to be over. Like and then the umpire says, go to first, come home, and then all the lights start going on and off, and the bell starts going back and forth.
That was the best. Like giving that guy the cue of like, all right, let's go nuts. Then everybody has to work themselves into that frenzy. Again, not complaining about the win, but you don't have to let it come down to this if you have a better eighth inning, let's say, just to pick that one where the Phillies had a decent shot at and their best, most promising hitters coming up in that situation, and then came up with nothing. And scoring generally more than 2 or 3 runs a game would be, I think, also helpful in that situation. But again, like I said, in an effort to start having momentum, hey, this could be that. Why not? But the Red Sox are a tough team to beat, and we're in the middle of a stretch of a bunch of AL teams, which is never really the Phillies' best look either. So I'll take it. But boy, that was about as what's the word I'm looking for here? That was about as unenthusiastic a walk-off win as you could probably imagine.
It was unenthusiastic. It was anticlimactic, no doubt about it. All those different things. But hey, again, you're right. It's a win. We'll take it. Everybody's going to go home happy. Bryce Harper had another big game. 2 more hits in this, 2 for 4 with another extra base hit. Bryce Harper has 14 hits in his last 8 games. 13 of those 14 hits are for extra bases. And you just get a sense, like you can just tell how infrequent it's been that guys have gotten extra base hits this year, because it does seem like an avalanche of doubles and home runs for Bryce Harper. Matt Gelb noted he's raised his slugging percentage by 84 points over his last 8 games, which is, that's doing something right there. Slugging percentage up by 84 points over his last 8 games. And then Todd Zalecki noted that Harper is the first Phillies player since at least 1901 to have 13 extra base hits in an 8-game span. The last Phillies player with 12, Justin, name that player. It happened in 2017. The last player with 12 extra base hits in an 8-game span. I can give you multiple choice. You want multiple choice?
Yeah, let's do multiple choice.
Okay. Multiple choice. Let me see if I can, let me think of, 2017 would be Rhys Hoskins, Odubel Herrera, Nick Williams, and who would be a fourth? Okay, so I'll give you 3 because I couldn't think of a fourth one off the top of my head.
Well, that's good because I was going to say Aaron Altair, and I'm glad I didn't. And he might not have even been 2017.
No, he was there in 2017.
It's all a blur.
Yeah.
Okay, so 17, is that Hoskins' first year?
It was.
Okay, so immediately have a flag up for his debut kind of home run barrage that he went on, and that could be exactly what we're talking about. But I also feel like Herrera went absolutely nuts at one point, and then probably like didn't get a hit for 2 months afterwards. I don't know. I'm gonna say Hoskins just because I know he had a historic string of extra base hits as well.
It was Odubel Herrera. You had the right idea. It was Odubel Herrera.
Who would have thought saying 2 of the 3 names you mentioned gave me a good shot at getting it right?
That's right. That's right. That's how we do it here.
I mean, I knew it wasn't Nick Williams, to be honest.
Right, right. I was blanking on 2017 Phillies, like in the moment. I was like, yeah.
I don't know how.
Well, the fact that I struggled coming up with a fourth one, like it's like, okay, well, I can't go 4 deep now because he's going to know that's not the right one. Anyway, we're losing the plot here. Bryce Harper, Justin. This is what we need. This is the good stuff right here. This is the superstar stuff right here. The wrist appears healthy. He has said that his wrist feels as good as it has in the last year. The Phillies are now 31-16 when Harper gets a hit, 12-13 when he does not get a hit in the lineup. He is just... I wonder if we're in line for a kind of second half like we saw in his MVP season in 2021. He had a 338, 476, 13 second half in 2021. That's really where what kind of won him the MVP going down the stretch. Even though they didn't make the playoffs, he was pretty much unstoppable. I mean, this is what we were talking about before the All-Star break when Harper was just coming back and was still slumping. He did. He found it and he turned it on. I don't have a creative question about Bryce Harper. Just like great news.
I'll be honest. For a second, I was like, 13 of 14 for extra bases. That can't be right. But then you remember you're talking about Bryce Harper, and yeah, that's the kind of stuff he does. This is exactly the kind of offense the Phillies are going to need in the second half. I'm wondering if a guy wins NL Player of the Month in July, August, and September, if he still has a shot at being the NL MVP despite missing so much time in the first half. I mean,
I was going to ask you that. That's a great question. I think he does. I think if he has, I think if he has a red hot second half, because I don't think there's I guess Ohtani is a front runner for MVP, and he's pretty much always a front runner for MVP. But
they love voting for him too.
Yeah. So I guess that's probably the right answer.
Probably,
slumps, but yeah.
But if current trends continue, they may be hustling Bryce Harper off to just like become a renewable energy source for planet Earth and thinking bigger than NL MVP if he's hitting with that much power. This is not only like what you needed from Bryce Harper. This is the kind of performance you need from this offense, which is, again, feels like they're working so hard to score very little runs still coming off the break. But you got to have to keep your head above water and stay alive in this contention that are in this playoff race with the Mets, the divisional race, and everything. Things are only going to get tighter, and to just have a guy who is good for an extra base hit pretty consistently. Especially at a point where you're really starved for power. He's Bryce Harper. He's doing everything Bryce Harper's supposed to do. And it's honestly, what we're feeling is relief. You're just feeling a wave of relief. Not that anybody should have been. I was not very concerned that that's it for Bryce Harper. This is just more like you need to... Seeing is believing, and experiencing is believing a lot, especially in the second half of a baseball season. So to finally see Bryce Harper get into his first real deep groove of the season and just look utterly locked in, you don't even need to tell us that the wrist feels okay. We can see it feels okay. What worries me is when you say it's okay and you're still not hitting. That's not the issue right now. So I'm not, I have no concerns here whatsoever. It's Bryce Harper. He can do this, and he's not done doing it. So this is exactly what the Phillies need. You just need to see a little more offense from some other people.
Yeah, you need, and part of the problem now is Alec Bohm on the injured list. He's going to be gone for a few weeks with this with the hairline fracture in his rib cage. So you're going to see Otto Kemp pretty much every day at third base. I don't know that I would have had Otto Kemp everyday starter for the Phillies in my bingo card at the beginning of the season, but I think that's
I don't know if the Phillies would have had that either.
Yeah. And we'll see at the trade deadline whether or not they're able to shake a bat loose somewhere. But I'm not optimistic about an impact bat being added to this team. I'd love to think it could be. We're kind of going to go over some of the names in just a few minutes when we do our trade deadline draft. Just a couple other quick notes about the Angels series. They did hit well in the Angels series and still lost 2 out of 3 because you had another Jekyll and Hyde game from Jesus Luzardo in the first game. He's been all over the place. He's alternated great starts with lousy starts, it seems, over the last 2 months. And it's really kind of hard to know what it is you have in Jesus Luzardo. And then Ranger Suarez in the finale didn't have it. He was down about 1.5 miles on all of his pitches. He couldn't command anything. Everything was over the middle of the plate. He was not fooling anybody. Really, the best pitched game of the weekend was from Taijuan Walker, who didn't pitch great, but pitched the best game of the 3 of them. He got hit around the least of the 3 pitchers for the time that he was in there. So, yeah, I don't know. With Luzardo at this point, Justin, and Suarez, did anything you saw this weekend from those guys concern you for the second half, or where are we at on those 2 guys?
I have to say no, just because I can't. We can't start picking away at the rotation. I don't mean criticizing. I just mean concerns. There's enough concerns elsewhere on this roster to start pointing out that or start treating. I'm just going to call it a rough series, I guess, at a time in the second half where, Suarez is going to look really good for a little while, and then he's going to have a dud every once in a while. Like, I'm not ready to call it anything other than, a couple of tough starts, couple of bad starts. Offense couldn't outpace what the starters were giving up. I don't think this is like a trend or a pattern yet. I think it's just, a human rotation giving up some runs when they shouldn't have. It's unfortunate. Like, it's shocking. Like tonight, watching Zach Wheeler give up a home run early is just like, oh my God, what is that? And then with so much time for them to keep adding, like, is this the beginning of a really bad night? And for Zach Wheeler of all people, that's the last thing you want to see. But he righted himself, and Phillies wound up winning the game, so it's okay. In Suarez's case, I still think he's perfectly capable of coming out there and being a guy who can start a postseason game for you. I see no reason to think why he's not allowed to have a rough start every now and again, not hit his, have a downtick in velo or not hit his spots, throwing hittable pitches up there and not missing bats. It's going to happen, especially when more teams might have a little more of a book on the Phillies rotation, knowing that it's their strength and that they're going to come in hot. So I'm not too worried about that. Luzardo is just, he is earlier this year thinking of him as like another arm who can go 8-9 innings and shut out a lineup. That's kind of over for me. It is sort of like, all right, let's watch the first inning or two and see what kind of Luzardo you're going to get, because you do typically know very early what kind of Luzardo start it's going to be. And that's going to be the trick, is like, which version of that is going to show up. But honestly, nobody, possibly even Jesus Luzardo, is in control of that, unfortunately. So, until they tell us that something's wrong, that he's got to correct, that's not going to be a top of the list of my concerns. What does kind of concern me is that soon, this coming weekend after the Red Sox series, the Phillies are going to be playing the New York Yankees. And the New York Yankees have been getting real cute about sign stealing and real brazen about sign stealing, which they are allowed to do. This is not an accusation of cheating. They just seem really excited and really aggressive about it. So if any of these any of these pitchers, which, they were like, oh, Luzardo's tipping his pitches earlier this year. Well, if he's doing anything close to that, the Yankees are going to spot it, and they're going to use their little, tin can on a string communication system, which I guess would be cheating, so never mind.
Yeah,
but they're going to use the somewhat layered multi-person sign stealing system that they have in place, that you can watch video of, like Cody Bellinger losing his, like, doing what they called an inflatable tube man move on second base to indicate what kind of pitch was coming. They're going to have that going. So they're going to be ready for you, Luzardo, Suarez, guys who might be tipping their pitches. Be ready for that, because the Yankees are going to, if there's a way in, they're going to find it. So tighten up now, or it's going to be a real rough weekend.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me about Suarez is he was so great in the first half last year and faded down the stretch. So great in the first half this year. His last couple outings have been a little bit less impressive. They had him on a pitch limit of 85 pitches his last time out before the break, and then he wanted to sit out the All-Star break. I think he's healthy. Seems like he's healthy, but with Suarez, there's just a little concern there that you're going to see a dip here for a little bit. I hope that's not the case, and it was just a one-time thing, but it needs to kind of see how that all works out with him.
Suarez always needs a little more time. He's kind of like that cat waking up in a sunbeam kind of energy, where he's like, I always talk about how cool he is and how relaxed he is, but like it can take him like an extra minute or two to like kind of get fully up to speed and get fully primed up to 100%. And sometimes that manifests in the kind of performance you saw in his last time out. Not ready to give it up yet, but let's check back in next week.
And then the Kyle Schwarber Grand Slam, was that probably the best moment of the year so far? I mean, that was one of the most electric moments we've seen at Citizens Bank Park this season. We haven't had just doesn't feel like we've had a lot of those. That was an amazing moment at Citizens Bank Park, watching, especially coming off the All-Star game and the MVP, watching him come up and hit that Grand Slam in the game on Saturday was absolutely electric.
Well, to see him come up in his first at bat, right after the All-Star break and hit a solo shot was just like, wow. What if he never stops homering, and each one just makes him more beloved and harder to let go of if that happens? Boy, it's like I want to be mad at the Phillies. I just keep bringing up all this stuff that hasn't happened. It's purely hypothetical, and I'm just like, oh, you guys. You did it again. Like, get it together. But yeah, no, very cool. And you're right. I was at a barbecue this weekend where someone referred to the Phillies as the worst first place team in baseball, which is such a Phillies fan thing to say, but also totally accurate. Totally accurate. I mean, I don't know if it's statistically accurate, but it definitely feels accurate. We're like, I know they're in first place. I know they've won a lot of games. I know they have really great players. And obviously, I keep saying they have the best starting rotation in baseball, even though all we're talking about is how they, don't. But they do, still. And then you look back on the year, and we kind of had this conversation going into the All-Star game, where it was like, yeah, they're in first place, and they win a lot. But there's very few guys, if any, that you could say are truly having like career years offensively. I guess Schwarber is like the one you would say. Yeah. But and then like Turner leading the league in hits for a while. But as far as like individual performances, you're kind of short on those. And the same goes for like the kind of moments you're talking about, where you are just kind of short on these moments. And I remember in when Harper's like first big Harper moment, that grand slam against the Cubs. That was a walk-off. When that happened, it felt like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, we have not done this for a while. We're not there yet. That's not what I'm talking about. But you're right that I think there's maybe been a little more moments like tonight where it's like, yeah, they won. It's not going to lead Sports Center, but they won in extra innings. Like that's not going to be the most. It's not going to be the most exciting part of the recap rundown tomorrow, but they did do it.
So many of the wins this year have been frustrating, and that's why it kind of doesn't feel great. And they are, listen, since June 1st, they're 500. They are an even 500 since June 1st. So it's about a month and a half of baseball where they've just been kind of playing even Steven baseball. And luckily the Mets have been kind of doing the same thing. And the rest of the National League East is trash, so including the Braves. So
we've got some tough or annoying opponents coming up, so now may not be the time. But boy, this team could really use, and I know what team couldn't, but contextually, you know what I mean when I say this team could really use like an 8-game win streak, just like some kind of definitive, like we got hot, and somebody's batting average on balls in play skyrocketed up to like 600. So we know it's not like real, but they still won 8 games in a row. And like that did a lot as far as people's confidence and their confidence and the standings and everything. They are overdue for that because boy, I hate when you say stuff like they've been 500 since June 1st. I don't like that at all.
No, because it makes it sound like they're not very good because, and 500 is not great, but they were much better than 500 in May. And so, that's kind of where that sits right now. And it's, again, we know with this team, it's all about how they're playing. As long as they are putting themselves in a position to play in October, it's about playing well as you're getting into October. But you do want to play well now so that you can qualify for the postseason. And so that's, it's all part of it. The games matter now too. And one of the things that could help is making additions here at the trade deadline. Again, July 31st is the trade deadline. So we are 10 days away from the trade deadline. And so no big moves have really been had yet other than the Rafael Devers trade. And that was not really a hot stove move. It was more just this guy hates playing here and we hate listening to him say how much he hates playing here. So we're going to trade him away for pennies on the dollar. So what Justin and I are going to do, and I'm not sure how long we'll do, maybe we'll each make, I don't know, we can each make 10 picks. Is that too many? We got a bunch of names here of different players who could be available at the trade deadline, relief pitchers and bats. And so we're just going to go through. We don't have to exhaust this list. Let's do like 10 each. And we're just going to rank these guys based on who we want to see come here, not on how available they might be, what you might have to give up in a trade. I mean, that'll be part of the conversation, but let's just pick players based on who we want, who would be the biggest help. And I'm trying to use players who realistically will be available at the trade deadline. So Justin, since I made the list, you go first and we'll just alternate back and forth. There's no need to do like snakes with a 2-person draft.
And we don't need to worry about whether we're talking about a relief pitcher or an outfield bat, I assume. We can pick from either pool.
Yeah, pick from either pool anytime. Okay. It's just, whatever player you think would be the most impactful, helpful, best fit for the Phillies. Anybody. And it doesn't have to be any of the people on my list either. If there's somebody else you're thinking of, then, add that person.
Well, as names have started piling up as we near the trade deadline, and, even guys you've heard of, you're kind of learning a little more context about like, okay, what's going on lately? Like, how appealing is this guy? And the more I see statistically about Yohan Duran in Minnesota, I'm feeling like that's a guy who's going to really benefit a team that needs bullpen help in high leverage situations. I mean, again, statistically, from the guys on this list, he kind of doesn't have a lot of competition in some ways. Like he has the lowest ERA potentially and has allowed the least amount of hard hit balls. He is also allowing like 4 times the amount of ground balls that he's allowing fly balls, and none of these guys can boast anything even close to that. So it's, the thing that'll turn the Phillies off is he's one of the many, many, many guys in this pool who are on a 1-year deal, and maybe that's something they work out on their own as far as like keeping a guy around longer. But I think for the most part, they're interested, like we said, in team control. So perhaps that's an instant disqualifier. I don't know how hard of a stance they have on that. But as far as like numbers, there's some very happy ones. The kind of numbers you want to see a lot more guys than one putting up in your bullpen. But for right now, I would take him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, he's a lot of people's number ones. I think he might have been my number 2. You did not select the guy that I was going to take number 1. For me, number 1 is Mason Miller of the A's. He'd be the closer I would go after. He's got all that team control, another for like 4 years of team control. And then there's a lot of talk about making him a starter at some point too. I mean, I think that's certainly a possibility somewhere down the road. But for right now, he's an electric closer. His ERA is 4.04 on the season. But if you take out 3 games in which he gave up 11 runs in 3 games, he has pitched 33 1/3 innings and allowed just 5 runs in all of his other starts. So 32 outings, 5 runs, a 1.35 ERA. So he's had 3 games where he got knocked around a little bit. And so I have people saying like, well, would they'll do Jordan Romano? That's kind of the same thing with him. Not even close. Romano, 6.88 ERA. He's pitched in 39 games. He's given up runs in 11 of his 39 games. Okay. He's given up multiple runs in 7 of his 39 games. He's given up 6 runs in a game, 4 runs in a game, and he's given up 3 runs in a game 3 times. Okay. So when we're talking about, closers and, if you take out all the bad games and they're really great, that doesn't work for everybody. Like Mason Miller truly is a guy. He's had 3 games. And even in those 3 games, one of those games was 5 runs and then one was 3 runs and one was 2 runs. So, I mean, it's not like he's gotten like blown up in a couple of different starts. So I think he's electric. I think he's got tremendous, exactly the closer's mentality. It'd be great if he'd been in a playoff situation before, but I mean, the whole 22 Philly team was never in the playoffs and they excelled when they got to October. So I don't put a whole lot of stock in that. So Mason Miller would be my first guy out of the chute. Cost notwithstanding, team control, electric arm, exactly what you need.
I also like Cade Smith on the Guardians. I know, his fate, if like Klugh goes somewhere, he's probably not going anywhere. Cleveland's very unlikely to trade both of these guys. And they're also not under any pressure to trade either of them, which makes them kind of unideal trade partners. But as far as like pure guy stuff, I mean, he's striking out 35% of the batters he faces and has an over 15% swinging strike rate. He's throwing a fastball 96 miles an hour and he works in a splitter. I mean, he also, as far as team control, he's a season and a half from arbitration. So if you're looking for relievers to get guys out and maybe add in a little bit of humiliation for the hitter, Cade Smith is your guy, and that's what I'm looking for from a high leverage reliever.
Yeah, he's electric. He's absolutely electric. For my next guy, I'm going bat, and I'll take the guy who would just fits perfectly into what the Phillies need, and that's Eugenio Suarez. With Alec Boehm out, you don't have to worry about a position change for a little while. And then it'd be one of those situations where, when Boehm comes back, we'll figure it out kind of a thing. Because he is a 45 home run power from the right side. There's just, those guys aren't around in baseball this year, outside of Aaron Judge. There are no right-handed hitting power hitters in baseball anymore, which is just crazy to think about. That used to be such a calling card of baseball. And those guys are gone. So again, you'd have to move some guys around once Alec Boehm came back, but in terms of just like exactly the fit for what you need offensively, the profile, I'm taking Eugenio Suarez to be my second guy.
And since we're breaking the seal on the bats, I've always liked Steven Kwan. Again, another guy Cleveland doesn't want to deal, but he just does everything at kind of a high level. At least it's not that, there's no weaknesses. It's just that defensively, he's an asset, and at the plate, he can consistently be a threat, getting on base. Maybe he's not giving you like the power numbers that you need, but then again, like you said, who who is? Because Kwan's slugging under 400. He's at the lower end of the names we've got here as far as like the power goes, but he's hitting 285. And like I said, he's going to get on base and he's going to cause trouble. Now, maybe I regret that in like mid-August when we're watching Steven Kwan get thrown out at second base as the hitter grounds into yet another double play. And, it doesn't really solve that problem for you. But as far as like effective members of the offense who can execute, who can read a pitch and can barrel up on it, I mean, Kwan's a guy who can do that. And he takes care of some of your outfield defense issues as well.
Yeah, he's a Max Kepler replacement extraordinaire out there.
Yeah.
He doesn't solve your right-handed issues, but he'd be your leadoff hitter. And that would be the Phillies could use a dynamic leadoff hitter for sure. I'll take Emmanuel Clase at this point. The track record there with Clase is obvious. He's under team control also for a couple of years. I know the price tag on him would be extremely high, but again, we're not caring about that right now. And Clase was the best relief pitcher in baseball last year. Hasn't been quite the same level of effectiveness this year, but been very good lately. And he's pitched in the postseason. Again, he did get lit up a little bit in the playoffs last year. Relievers are volatile. One year a reliever gets blasted in the playoffs, and the next year they come back and might be lights out. I'll take the longer track record of Emmanuel Clase, and he'd be my third guy, I think.
I'm a little torn because Pete Fairbanks' fastball is probably the most dominating pitch from anyone on this list. But I was also drawn to the lefty Reed Detmers in Anaheim. Since May 9th, he's had a 1.29 ERA and 37 strikeouts in 28 innings. And apparently he went 22 consecutive outings without allowing an earned run. So that's the kind of you have to wonder, is this a guy who's now that that's out of his system, it's not coming back, or is he a guy who can pitch that well? He's a converted starter and has 3 more years of control after this, and also he's having a year where his velocity is actually up about 1.5 miles an hour. So that's appealing, I would say. That's got appeal. I would certainly welcome Detmers as an addition to the Phillies bullpen.
I like that pick, and he's one of the few lefties available.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you needed like a Jose Alvarado postseason replacement, that could be him. Although I think Jesus Luzardo is going to probably be that guy once the playoffs roll around. I'm going to go with another closer. I'm going Ryan Helsley of the Cardinals. Now, I'm not 100% sure what the Cardinals are going to do at this point. They've kind of been in the wild card chase most of the season. They technically still are, but that's kind of the same for a lot of these teams that we're talking about. They are still in the conversation, but you need to have a realistic conversation with yourself. Like if you're the Cardinals, you play in a division with 2 vastly superior teams in the Cubs and the Brewers. Like you're not even close to as good as those 2 teams are. You also are going to be battling for a wild card with the Dodgers and the Padres and the Giants and the Mets and the Phillies. Like you're not as good as any of those teams. So yes, you're kind of in the periphery right now, but if you're the Cardinals and you've got Ryan Helsley, a guy who's going to be a free agent at the end of this year, and you can get some high-end talent for him, you have to do that. He's got to be traded at the trade deadline. If they don't deal him, it's malpractice because they're not going to the playoffs. They're just not. They're not a playoff team. So
I mean, Helsley was mentioned like months ago. He's probably the first guy mentioned as part of the hot stove because of where the Cardinals are. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So I think he will be available. I think he's going to move. I think he's going to get traded. I would love for the Phillies to be that team to get him. Throws over 100 miles an hour. He is still one of the best closers in baseball. He is a lockdown guy. He'd be the guy, one of the guys I would want to see them go get here.
All right. For my next pick, I guess I will just throw Pete Fairbanks in there. It's funny when you talk about the Rays in these situations because the Rays are more than likely chance to make the postseason this year. They're not like sitting on the outside looking in or anything. They're not dominating, but the Rays never dominate. And that's why it's funny because they're always framed as like, I mean, look, the Rays aren't out of it, but you can like call them and see if they're like in the mood to do something wacky because they love doing something wacky. And Pete Fairbanks he can throw triple digits fire. So like, this year, before the All-Star break, he allowed 9 earned runs in 36 appearances and only runs at all in 5 out of 36 appearances, allowed hits in 15 out of 36 appearances. I mean, he took a second to get going this year, but Pete Fairbanks is, he's a dominant reliever, and it harkens back to, you talk about guys who aren't in baseball anymore. I mean, throwing the ball hard is obviously paramount for a lot of relievers, but just to have that guy whose job it is to come in, throw 6 pitches faster than the speed of light, that would be great. That would be great to have that guy to be able to come in. The Phillies don't have that. Yeah, exactly. So he'd be coming in and filling a role that the Phillies are not filling currently. That's supposed to be Alvarado's job. And I don't know about you, and I don't think we've really talked about it, but, getting him back is obviously a big deal, but it also, what kind of Alvarado is going to come back? What's the shape of the arm going to be when he comes back from being out of the country? How much, honestly, you got to wonder how much is he going to be motivated knowing he's not going to the postseason, no matter how well he does.
That's a fair question.
So again, I'm not questioning. It's just more like a relatable mindset where it's like, all right, yeah, I'm back, but whatever, I guess.
He may also feel like, hey, I let these guys down. I want to
or
get
that totally that as well. Yeah.
Completely and I think feasible. You think that's probably the more likely attitude he's going to have. But it's a fair question. I mean, you'd only be human if that didn't creep into your heart a little bit. I'm not going to be able to see this thing through to the end. So all right, I'm going to take Griffin Jax with my next pick. I agree with you. I think Duran is the guy from Minnesota, but Griffin Jax is also a dynamic right-handed relief pitcher who has had a couple of really good seasons now. Would be a fantastic. He'd kind of want to be, I don't know that I'd want him to be like the piece though, right? I think we're now starting to get into relief pitchers. I think Fairbanks is where the line ends of like, this is the high-end pitcher. And I think Fairbanks is kind of like a Carlos Estevez. And Estevez, I didn't put him on the list, but Estevez could be traded. I should put him on the list, actually, because he's absolutely could be traded by a Royals team that's probably not going to go to the playoffs.
Okay, this is a good time for a quick sidebar. Do you feel that Dave Dombrowski veers somewhat heavily towards players that he's either had before or signed before or are like from organizations that he's worked for in the past? It just feels like a Dave Dombrowski signing has this kind of signature quality of like, oh, okay, that guy who was like probably at his best maybe a year or 2 or 3 ago, but is like well known. Like they're always celebrities. It feels like in a real Dave Dombrowski trade, you're getting like famous baseball players. And I feel like somebody like Estevez, like Robertson, and then Estevez, less of the celebrity status, but more of the familiarity status, where he's like, yeah, okay, I know that guy. Do you feel like Dave Dombrowski just like hates doing paperwork or looking at scouting reports, where he's just like, oh yeah, that guy, sure, yeah, come on back, that's fine.
I don't have to do the employee training again, right. It's enough already. Yeah, that could be. Imagine we get a bullpen filled out with David Robertson, Carlos Estevez, and Seranthony Dominguez here at the trade deadline.
I was going to throw him in too. Yeah, that would be absolutely. I don't know how people would react to that.
Not well.
Well, it depends on how they pitch. Depends totally on how they pitch.
I know how they'd react initially. Not well.
Yeah, not well.
Not well at all. But I think Fairbanks is kind of the last guy that's like the closer. And now we're kind of going into like the secondary guys. And I think Griffin Jax I think he could be like your closer, but it's probably more like a closer by committee kind of thing. And I think he's kind of more like the second arm. I don't know if he's the big guy that you get, that's you're feeling like mission accomplished. Maybe he is.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. But I'm going to take another look at these bats, and I'm fearful that there's some sort of, it hasn't been, I think, outwardly stated, but some sort of channel or perhaps gravitational pull bringing Cedric Mullins to the Phillies. I don't really want that. He's putting up his best power numbers since 2021, but I mean, he hasn't been hitting well. Like that's just an objective truth. He had like a hot couple of weeks to start the season, but ever since then, like the 56 games before the All-Star break, he's hit like 188. So that's when you stop doing like sample size and just start going like, okay, so he's had like a rough first half. Yeah, like we can just round up.
Some of the next couple of first half, yeah.
Right. So I just feel like his name gets brought up a lot, and I don't know. Dombrowski likes doing deals with the Orioles, and the Orioles love pitchers who've pitched for the Phillies, and there's no better place to get.
Is that who
No, I'm just complaining. I'm doing a preamble where I complain.
Okay, it's a lead-in of a complaint.
Yeah.
Got it.
So now that we're in that level of guy, I'm going to say I'm coming back around on Taylor Ward from last year. Yeah, no, he's not going to set the world on fire, but he's a 25 homer guy with another year of control, and he's giving you the power. He can give you the power numbers that you can feel like you're missing. Again, he's not going to lead the pack, but of the guys we're talking about, 4 of them are slugging over 490 right now, and he's one of them. So
he had a great series in Philadelphia.
He did. Yeah, if he wanted to come to the Phillies, he made sure to be seen in that series for sure. So he's a guy I wouldn't mind.
He had a Brent Rooker 2024 type series. Remember, Brent Rooker came in and made every Phillies fan learn his name and decide, this is the greatest hitter we've ever seen. We have to have Brent Rooker. And now there's kind of a little bit of that going on with Taylor Ward, because Ward hit a couple of homers, had like 4 doubles in the series. I mean, he looked like the kind of guy you'd want to have.
I think it's more of a Justin Bour situation where he comes in, hits like 4 homers in 3 days, and the Phillies are like, "All right,
yeah, you
can just stay."
Yeah, don't take the plane home. I'm gonna go with the guy who hit the leadoff home run off Zach Wheeler in tonight's game, and that's Jarren Duran, who is really a dynamic young player.
Yeah,
had a much better year last year than this year. I don't love that he's left-handed. He can't help it. It's the way he hits. But he's a dynamic young player. He's got years of team control also. He led the league in triples last year, leads it again this year. Like that kind of athlete. The Phillies don't have a whole lot of like great athletes on this team. You know what I mean? Like they don't have guys that do that. Like Stott's a good athlete. Turner's a good athlete, but he's getting up there. He's not going to be a great athlete for a whole lot longer. And then after that, there's not a lot of guys who scream athleticism. Like JT Realmuto used to for a catcher, but Bryce Harper's never been like, wow, wildly athletic player.
He's more like an out of control bulldozer. Like he'll just blast through a wall. It's less about finesse and more about brute force.
Exactly. And Yohan Rojas is an athletic player, but only in kind of one way. You know, and I think Jarren Duran would kind of be that athlete like we don't really have in Philadelphia at this point, and you'd have him for another couple of years. I think he's a really good player. I think he's gonna have a big second half. I don't think the Red Sox are gonna trade him, but if they do move on from, they have a logjam of young players. They kind of need to move somebody at some point. So
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
they need to like something in the Phillies organization to make that trade work, because they have options, and they could trade Duran. If the Phillies said we want Duran, and they said, all right, well, you got to have something appealing for them, because this is a move, again, like the Guardians, it's a move they don't necessarily have to make. So you got to be more appealing to them possibly than they are to you, unfortunately. But I think you're right. A guy like Duran or a guy like Kwan in the outfield, I think people, including me, have not seen players like that. And I think not lately, are not used to seeing that kind of like action and movement and ability in the outfield, even specifically. And I feel like that would be eye-opening for some people, probably within the first couple of games of their arrival. Now I'm talking.
We saw it with Rojas when he first got called up,
yes.
And then we haven't seen it since. Yeah. So yeah.
Yep. Well, he's having a rough go of it, but we're kind of down there now. And I always come back to Bryan Reynolds, because at one point he was a 5-tool player for sure. But in July, he went like 5 for 44 and struck out in about 40% of his bats. But then again, you look at that and you say, but that's so bad and dumb that it can't possibly be real. Like, it has to be because of like some kind of issue, mental or otherwise. So it's fixable, I think. When a problem gets like that wacky, it has to be, fixable, and maybe the right person can get in his ear and help him turn things around. And honestly, the Pirates are said to be looking to get like a pair of young bats, I think ESPN said, for Bryan Reynolds. First of all, you can make the joke about the Phillies giving the Pirates some more of their newer bats, because the Pirates will
maybe they actually just mean bats. They just want bats.
Yeah, like
they're
literal bats. Some of those new torpedo ones, but also there's not. I wouldn't be afraid of trading two minor league bats, or like a major and one minor league bat to the Pirates for Bryan Reynolds. That thought doesn't scare me. So I feel like that's, even with him struggling, I wouldn't be afraid of feeling like they overpaid, because I think his potential turnaround would make that not the case.
Do you think if the Phillies offered Aiden Miller and Bryson Stott, that would get the job done for Bryan Reynolds? Because he's making a lot of money for them too, so you'd get their money off the books. Bryson Stott doesn't make anything yet. He'll start to get a little bit more expensive in arbitration, but he's still under team control for another couple of years. And then, in Aiden Miller, you might have your shortstop of the future if you're Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think that's something that Pittsburgh could bite on, because, and I really don't mean this facetiously, but their priorities are rarely to win. Like, they'll say that they are, but like, they're one of these organizations that really does the churn and burn thing, where they're just like, yeah, you come up, and then Reynolds was signed to an extension, but like, here he is being considered a trade candidate because it's another lousy Pirates season, and at any moment they could be a team that's like, yeah, all right, we're gonna just kind of like do a reboot, like have a soft reboot here, get some more minor league talent, whatever. And I think Miller, despite the struggles he's had down in the minors this year, would still have appeal for them. Yeah, at this point I wouldn't be too upset to lose Stott in the name of a bat that could really help the lineup, because Stott isn't that bad. He isn't.
So would you
I think that, you know what? I would say this. Reynolds has a better chance of a turnaround than Stott does.
Yeah,
that's
I agree with
that's
that.
the appeal to me.
I agree with that. And Reynolds is 30. Like, he's older than I thought, but
Me too.
30's not old. Like, he shouldn't be losing his skill at 30. So,
no, and a guy who can hit for power like he can is going to still be able to do that for the next 3-4 years, ideally. Yeah, maybe longer. You don't know, but that being 30 isn't the death sentence there either.
All right, for my next player, I'm going to go back to relief pitcher, and I'm going to take back what I said before about Fairbanks being the last reliever that I think you could have close. Felix Bautista, I think, is a guy that if you got at the trade deadline as like the final piece, I would be okay with that. I think he's pitching really well this year for the Orioles. He's been a closer in the playoffs. Like, he knows how to pitch. He's also got years of team control. He's been just kind of like wasting in Baltimore this year, as that team's not going anywhere. So I think Felix Bautista would be my next reliever, and I think that's where now I draw the line at closers. Like, that'd probably be the last closer that I would see.
Not a David Bednar man this year.
Not a David Bednar man this year. I am not.
All right, that makes total sense. Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you. Yeah, as far as pitchers go, we're kind of just entering into that area of a lot of these guys would be outside of what I think even the Phillies are looking for. Like, I'm pretty positive Kenley Jansen is going to get moved, but I don't think the Phillies are like looking for a 37-year-old rental to finish out the season in their high leverage innings. So, yeah, I don't know. And Dennis Santana is an interesting one, because he actually has like the lowest ERA of any of the pitchers we're talking about, but I just don't trust it. He's a journeyman who's gone through 4 different teams. Pirates are his 5th team, and like, yeah, he figured it out. But the success has been so short term, compartmentalized to just this year, that you don't want to be the team, like in the same way that some of these guys might benefit from a change of scenery. A journeyman who suddenly puts it all together, like, you don't want to mess with that. Like, you don't want to topple it like a Jenga tower, because you don't know. It feels like it could go away at any time. And he's absolutely benefited from the 206 batting average on balls in play that he's enjoyed. So you don't want to be the team that acquires him and then watches the other shoe drop. So I'm kind of nervous about the rest of these pitchers, honestly. Even Bednar, who I brought up, he's definitely pitched better than the beginning of the year. He's certainly righted the ship, but I don't know, it just makes me nervous. I'm not interested in a story. I'm not interested in an underdog tale or a comeback journey. Like, yeah, there's no narrative victory here. I want to see outs. That's what I want. And I don't think too many more of these guys could give it to you as I kind of vamp and flounder here. I saw Sir Anthony Dominguez pitching in Baltimore a couple weeks ago, and he's throwing high fastball, low splitter. And I can just see, the Phillies reacquire him, and then that low splitter goes right through the wickets and costs them like a game or two, potentially even in the playoffs, because it does not look like he's capable of keeping that out of the dirt. Like, it's supposed to be low, like it's supposed to get them to chase, but it's an adventure every time. So I guess Is it even my turn, or am I
It's
just
your turn.
talking?
So we've picked 7. Let's do 3 more each.
All right, I'll be the guy who picks Luis Robert Jr. You know, he's unlucky, but he's expensive. We're not worried about that right now. I think, as far as I bring up change of scenery, guys, yeah, I mean, you can just see it in his eyes. Or what, you can't see anything in his eyes, I guess, right. Is what I mean.
Yeah.
Whew, it's rough out there on the south side of Chicago, and I think they are ready to start assigning like attitude problems and stuff because he's looked a couple of times like he wasn't hustling and everything. But when you're down there with like the Rockies and White Sox and the dregs of baseball, I have a hard time blaming guys for not playing with their hair on fire. I think as far as change of scenery candidates go, wherever this guy goes is going to be a benefit for him. Yeah. He is going to be a better player and closer to the kind of player everyone is imagining when they talk about acquiring him. Power, tons of contact, like just an excellent guy to have in the middle of your batting order. That's somebody who, if he came to Philadelphia and turned it around, that's a huge benefit for the Phillies. And, when you talk about turnaround cases like this, it's like, all right, but how deep in the hole is he and how high up can he go? And he's probably like, there might be a guy with no greater distance between the two. Yeah. I think the ceiling is very high and the Phillies can be what he needs to reach it again. So, yeah, I think that's a guy you could go in on him.
And Chicago's going to accept all the money. They need something for him. If it's a buy low situation where you're not really out anything,
I'd buy low for sure.
I'm all for that. I'm all for that. My confidence would be very low that he would turn into the kind of player that he was a couple of years ago. But you have team options after this year, so you're not committing yourself to many years of Luis Robert Jr. if it doesn't work out here over the last couple of months of the season. So if he's being traded, and I think he's absolutely getting moved, and I think it's going to be for hay pennies on the dollar. I'd be interested in that and seeing if there's no other bats out there that are making themselves available. I'd throw that out there and see what happens. I mean, you could do worse than Johan Rojas out in center field. I mean, come on, let's give it a shot. All right, for my next pick, I'm going to go with another guy who I found was kind of impressive this weekend. He's been a kind of a disappointing player for his first few years in the league, but you look at Joe Adell's numbers across the board, the power is there. You look at his baseball savant page, all those the fun numbers look really good. He's hitting the ball hard, hitting the sweet spot, a lot of line drives. He's never going to be a high batting average guy, but again, he's a guy give you that right-handed power that the Phillies just don't have. I would very much sign myself up for Joe Adell in Philadelphia. I think he could be. I think you could slide him into the middle of that lineup and get a lot of production out of him.
Yeah, I think that's the potential's there. I mean, that's kind of where we are now. We're talking about the potential of some of these guys. And the potential of a guy like Jesus Sanchez is also there. He doesn't strike out a ton. What's funny is, like, among these bats, Steven Kwan and Nolan Arenado do not strike out. And then there's, like, a line, and the rest of these guys are closer to probably, like, normal rates. They're all in, like, the 20% of striking out. Kwan and Arenado are under 10. Like, these guys, they don't strike out a whole lot, and that's a nice thing to see. Jesus Sanchez, he could be that guy, in that spot as well. He's not a righty, but he is capable of hitting for a little bit of power. He's slugging 415 right now and hitting over 250. But again, it feels like we're getting more of the same. Like, you're bringing in like a Nick Castellanos type of offensive player again. Like, how many guys hitting 250, 260 and not hitting for as much power as do you want in the batting order? So I feel like the Phillies can do better, but he's a guy.
He is a guy. All right. So you got Jesus Sanchez there. I'll go with David Bednar at this point. In terms of the players available, he has had success as a closer. He hasn't had it with Pittsburgh. Again, like you said, with teams like Pittsburgh, how motivated are these guys right now? Especially if you're a closer, you're not getting many opportunities at this point. So David Bednar could be a guy that he comes to Philadelphia and just becomes somebody that everybody falls in love with, because he starts to act like a crazy person, So, I think at this point where we are in terms of the players, I would take David Bednar at this point, because we are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's pick number 18 of the 20 that we're going to do here. So, one more for each of us, Justin, to finish this off.
All right, I'll take Emilio Pagan. He had a rough start to the year out of the Reds bullpen, but last 10 appearances, he's kept his ERA under 1. And, the trade deadline is all about, well, how hot is he lately? And if you can pick up a guy like during his hottest streak of the season, okay, like that can work. He's at 9 strikeouts to 3 walks as far as his strikeout to walk ratio in just over 9 innings. And he's also hit a season high or career high, I believe, in saves. So, that's a guy who's perhaps struggled this year, but has put it together seemingly at the moment and could be somebody you can trust at the back of your bullpen.
All right, for my last one here, I don't love any of these options at this point.
No. I kind of hate that we're sitting here saying, I want this guy, because somebody be like, oh, what, you said they should get them? It's like, no, I didn't say that. I was forced to by a cruel host. He said we're doing a draft. I had to pick. It was legally obligated.
10 deep. But I'll go with old friend Carlos Estevez. His numbers have been pretty good for Kansas City this year. He's a known quantity. He's going to get guys out. He's not going to be the lights out guy. But he's a competent late inning reliever, which the Phillies don't have a lot of those at this point. So Carlos Estevez it is to finish off our trade deadline draft here. We went 20 deep. I'll post the results online, and you guys can vote and tell us which one, which group of players you like better. It's going to be a little bit weird because they're not like different guys at each position, so we can't like put a team together or anything. But I'm just searching for ways to involve the community. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, let's wrap things up here, Justin. Final thoughts as we finish up this episode.
Well, as usual, Matt Gelb had a eye-opening article on The Athletic today. And the part that jumped out to me was when Dave Dombrowski was talking about some of the top Phillies minor leaguers. And I don't think you could say things have changed, but I just felt like there were signs of different things being said on in regards to guys like Andrew Painter and Justin Crawford, who could factor into the Phillies' second half here, either as members of the Phillies or otherwise. And in Painter, it was interesting because in the slightest, smallest, tiniest little way, Dombrowski mentioned the non-zero chance of Painter coming out of the bullpen.
I heard that too.
He didn't even come close to say. He actually said we haven't discussed it. Or no, he said he was talking about something else at that point. But we haven't discussed Andrew pitching out of the bullpen really at all. Then he kind of followed that up and hedged a little bit by saying never say 100% on anything. But we've never discussed that. So, something that is certainly a change because they've
discussed it. It may not be something they'll do. They've discussed it.
He meant like him and the reporter have never discussed it before. Like we in the room have never, probably is what I assume. And also in regards to Crawford, I'm just going to read this. Dombrowski appeared to outline the club's strategy. If the Phillies do not acquire an outfield bat in the next 10 days, first of all, that sentence was, we're saying there's like a casual chance they just don't acquire a bat.
Absolutely.
That's kind of that's a bummer. Justin Crawford is a legitimate internal solution. He would not fix the power outage in the outfield, but he is an exciting prospect who makes contact and runs fast. The Phillies have been considering a Crawford promotion for weeks, team sources said. Dombrowski confirmed as much on Monday. He said,
you can't. I mean, who are you going to kick off the team? Max Kepler?
That's what I'm talking about, man. Like this was I don't know, I guess a little surprising to see how openly it's just like, and then if we don't get anybody, Justin Crawford can just be that offensive addition. You're like, I don't know about that, man. But he did describe Crawford as he is a person who is always on our minds, which just felt very sweet. And
a little creepy.
I like that. Yeah, a little like paternal. It was nice.
It was paternal. Yeah, not jilted ex-girlfriend weird, but just paternal. I get it. My mind jumped to a different place than yours did there.
But yeah, just an interesting update. And hey, maybe if you post the results of this draft, I'll actually post online the results of the draft we did before the All-Star break on Absolutely Hammered over at the Hittin Season Patreon, where we drafted non-All-Stars from Phillies teams going back to 1993. And we did fill up lineups, so we could actually field a team. And you can tell who had the best team, me, Mike Robertson, or Chris Jones. That was a lot of fun. So hopefully we can get that together.
So Tuesday will be post stuff you did on podcasts day here
yes.
at the Hittin Season theatrical empire here. Cinematic universe, I think is what I was trying to say. It's late. It's late, friends, and I'm giddy off of a walk-off catcher's interference win here on Monday night. Still high.
Can't
off the
contain
adrenaline
that
from
energy.
So that's what's happening here. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this edition of Hittin' Season. I want to encourage everybody to make sure to check out the Hittin' Season YouTube page. This episode will be up on the YouTube page for you to watch on your smart TV or your computer starting Tuesday morning. And don't forget to tell your friends and family members to subscribe to the Hittin' Season podcast, your future World Series winners. You can get it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcasts. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin' Season.